voyage to the New World, English navigator Henry Hudson sailed the Dutch ship Half Moon along the east coast of North America. Hudson and his Dutch and English crew sailed into the Delaware Bay, along the seacoast from Cape May to Sandy Hook, and as far upstream as Albany on the river that bears his name. This event would set the stage for the colonization of the region, part of what is now known as the Mid-Atlantic states, by 3 European nations, Holland, Sweden, and England. The Europeans encountered Indians or Native Americans of various tribes who had inhabited the region for centuries. The accounts of 17th century European explorers describe in detail the different tribes they encountered and their customs. The Dutch established settlements at New Amsterdam, what is now New York City, in 1624, and on the South River, the Dutch name for the Delaware, in the 1630s and 40s. A Swedish colony comprised of Swedes, Finns, and some Dutch settlers was established in the vicinity of present-day Wilmington, Delaware, in 1638. By the mid-1640s, colonists from New England began to settle on the eastern end of Long Island, New York. About the same time, English colonists were permitted to establish towns on Dutch territory on the west end of Long Island, just east of Manhattan. Despite early explorers' positive descriptions of the bountiful natural resources on the Cape, nearly a half-century would pass before any documented European settlement at Cape May.
Historians talk back and forth about, what brought the whaler yeoman to Cape May. One question I always like to pose is what took them so long. From 1609, Henry Hudson lands here. The Dutch have settlements in the 1630s, as I said. The Swedes are here in Christiana in Salem, New Jersey, what's now present-day Salem, New Jersey, in the 1640s and 50s. Things don't change much until 1664 when the English take over.
How can we explain the delay in the settlement of Cape May by European settlers? Early efforts by the Dutch to establish a whale fishery in the Delaware Bay proved disappointing. The Dutch did attempt to establish a colony across the Delaware Bay at Lewis in 1623, and then again in 1631. The latter attempt met with disastrous results. Within a year, the entire population of the small outpost was massacred by Indians. The Dutch at New Amsterdam and the South River, again their name for the Delaware, appear to have been more focused on the lucrative Indian fur trade as opposed to the valuable whale oil market. Both nations established their forts and colonies well upstream from the sea, on high ground along rivers and major streams. The English had established permanent settlements in Virginia in 1607 and in New England as early as 1620. In comparison to the English, the Dutch and the Swedes, especially the latter, sent few settlers to North America. In 1628, New Amsterdam had 300 inhabitants, while by 1630, the population at Massachusetts Bay had reached 1,000. Virginia's multiple settlements had a population of about 4,000. By 1640, the English population in New England had grown to 26,000. During the following decades, Anglo settlers would encroach on their friendly rivals, the Swedes and the Dutch, for both the North and the South. In 1640, a group of settlers from the English colony at New Haven, Connecticut, attempted to establish plantations at present-day Salem, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. The Dutch burned their fort and forced the English to abandon their settlement at Philadelphia, but the Swedish archives reveal that some of the Anglo settlers remained among the Swedes at Varken's Kill, what is now called Salem. Not until 1664, when the English government seized control of the Dutch colonies in America, did the settlement of Cape May by the English become a possibility. In fact, 2 more decades would pass before any permanent settlement on the Cape May Peninsula was documented.
Daniel Cox is a land speculator on a grand scale. He not only owns most of Cape May County, he's the largest landowner in what's known as West Jersey, which today would be most of South Jersey. He also owns land in New York's present-day New York State. He has a land grant for what's known as Carolina, which goes from below Virginia, the English colonies in Virginia, to Florida to the Pacific Ocean. So basically a good part of the continental United States, the southern half at least. By selling the land in 1691, 92, that's when things started to change. Cox, in the short time he owned Cape May County, he only sold small parcels of land or rented small parcels of land of a few acres. When the West Jersey Society, a consortium of wealthy businessmen in London, bought out his holdings in West Jersey, they had their agents offer the sale of plantations throughout Cape May County.
In 1687, London physician and land speculator Dr. Daniel Cox purchased title to much of southern New Jersey, including most of present-day Cape May County. Cox first purchased this land from the heirs of one of the English proprietors of West Jersey, and secondly from a group of local Indian chieftains, one of whom was Cape May's famous King Nummi. Shortly after his purchase, Dr. Cox established a town and whale fishery on the Cape, which was located on the Delaware Bay at New England Creek. According to local lore and early historians, this was the same site where whalers from Long Island, New York, and New England had camped during the whaling season for decades prior to Cox's purchase. The town was known, alternatively, as Cape Maytown, New England Town, Portsmouth, and Town Bank. The majority of Cox's workforce at Cape May were French Protestants known as Huguenots, some of the thousands who fled religious persecution in predominantly Roman Catholic France. The Huguenots at Cape May were skilled craftsmen, but contemporary court records reveal that they were not happy with their overseers or the working conditions on the Cape. Multiple lawsuits ensued between the French workers and Cox's agents at Burlington. This may, in part, have prompted Cox to sell most of his holdings in West Jersey in the year 1692 to the 48 mostly London merchants who made up the West Jersey Society. Cox employees established the first shipyard, the first salt works, and the first commercial orchard. The large structure Cox had built just above Cape May town, known as Cox Hall, was the first public building at Cape May.
By 1699, we have 70 families in Cape May County. Historian Joan Berkey found that at least 70% of those came from either eastern or western Long Island. Others came from East Jersey, the coast of North Jersey now. Many of those had been in Long Island earlier. They leapfrogged down here from New England. But by far, the lion's share of them came from Long Island. For the next 300 years, those families thrived here, and to this day we still have a good part of our population are descendants of those early 70 families.
Ironically, Cox's sale of his lands at Cape May to the West Jersey Society may have been his biggest contribution to the development of the English whaler yeoman community and the subsequent founding of Cape May County.